Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Welcome back. Welcome to. I appreciate the support either way. My name is Joe Josh. I go by iChart Daily. Today is August 3rd, 2025. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you an update to my last video of saying that we had blood on the horizon, and we've fallen. Right, from 118 to 113. Your most favorite altcoins are down decent amounts, and people are looking for an update. I would really like to train you guys on like maybe a more intimate session. If anyone would be interested in doing like a live session for like an hour or two, let me know. We'll go over certain things. You could ask me questions, stuff like that. Because my goal is to teach you, right? I just don't want to be that person that's like, where's Bitcoin going? All right, cool, thanks. Enjoy the rest of the summer. I'd rather you learn how to fish so that, once again, if I'm not here tomorrow, everyone can do this, right? It's like learning a language. You just have to put the reps in, so what am I seeing? First things first, there are certain charts that you need to look at that are the same Bitcoin chart. One is I prefer the Bitcoin versus USD Bitstamp chart. The reason being is because when you look at longer time frames, it shows you the data all the way back from 2011. The next chart you should be using is the BTC.1 chart on the CME futures. BTC1 exclamation point. And the third one should be BTC.D. This one shows Bitcoin's dominance. They're all Bitcoin's chart, but they're different, right? Bitcoin dominance shows you Bitcoin versus your alts. The Bitcoin futures chart shows you Bitcoin traded on the Chicago Exchange. And the most important thing about this one is it forms gaps because the Chicago Exchange mirrors the New York Stock Exchange hours, meaning they close, and crypto doesn't close. So when you see a gap, that is when the market is trading Bitcoin and there was a gap. So during this day or 2 days, whatever it is, Bitcoin closed at 114 and opened at 117. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes it happens on different time frames. The longer the time frame, the more the value the gap holds. One thing that I was seeing was a gap on the 1 day and 2 day chart that formed here on July 9th to July 11th. There's a rule of thumb that I would like you to write this down. Gaps get filled. Are they instant or do they eventually happen? That's the underlying question, okay? It's not a average or a consistent thing. The rule is they get filled. When? That's the main variable. Just to give you a little examples, this one got filled literally right a couple of days later. This one got filled 8 days later, right? There are some that get filled 44 days later. And what I mean by filled is the price action. If this one was coming down, price action comes up to fill the gap, right? So this gap happened over here, okay? It took right here 14 days later for us to fill the gap. And because we filled the gap, it fueled the bearish divergence. So these are it's like a metric system, right? What is the Bitcoin CME future showing? Is there a gap? Is there bearish divergence showing? Is there bearish divergence showing on longer time frames? What's happening on the shorter time frames? It's all calculations that you have to figure out to see what's going on with the chart. So the gap was filled. That's number one. And now what I want to see is I want to go to the regular chart and see what's happening on the longer time frames first, right? Because there's another rule that I try and teach you is long-term trends predict short-term outcomes. You need to allow the structure of the chart to happen first, and then you react. So, what does that mean? Well, the first thing I'm looking at is indicators. I want to see if they're lining up with bullish sentiment or bearish sentiment. Are they going with the bullish sentiment or are they going against it, right? So the first thing that I noticed is the RSI. The RSI is always going to be the faster mover of the moving averages. Well, it's usually the stochastic, but it's the RSI that I like to use first. If you remember me saying that there's there's this line, right? Charts respect lines for some odd reason. And we're forming this symmetrical triangle. So right now, the first thing that comes into my head is where is the RSI line, the baby blue? The baby blue is still in section A+, which means it's above the 70 line. If we do break the 70, there's going to be a lot of blood because there's a lot of room to bleed to support, right? Support was here, right? Support was here. I'm not caring about the first support. I'm talking about where the swing changed, right? Swing changed here, swing changed here, swing changed here, swing changed here. We're like here, okay? So can we do something like this where we come down, use the 70 as support, and then go back up to 71? It's on the table. It hasn't happened yet, right? Remember I told you about that thinning of the ice. Now that we are pointing down, it's not the best case scenario, obviously. So what you need to do is you zoom in and you set some alerts. So if number one on the monthly time frame, I'm going to set an alert at the 69.98. I need to know if we break that and the rock falls through the ice and we have tons of room to bleed. I'm instantly thinking shorts, right? And shorts to where? The only way to figure out if that really does happen is you need to go like one time frame lower. So you could see the waves here, right? It was 1, 2, higher high, 3. Right now we're in that either higher low situation or we come back down to form the same low. So once again, you need to watch the 3 week. Does the 3 week stop here or does the 3 week come back down to the same low here of the 64, 65? Each scenario that happens has a different ripple effect thereafter, right? Because a higher low, if we do stop here, is more bullish, showing me that we have that room to potentially go up to here. If we form the same low, then that's almost like a more bearish scenario because that means we could come back up and form a double top or even a lower low, showing me that this could be a double top or an inverse head and shoulders because of what's happening with this low here. So because this low hasn't formed yet, we don't know if we're going to come back down to 64.50 or if we're going to form a higher low to the 64.50. I go to the 2 week. Right, 2 week again, double top at the 68.50. Looks like we're coming back down to that neckline of the 62 right here, right? So you have this low, you come up. This is your first support of the 63. You come up, you double top, showing you that there's no more momentum. The first support system is going to be back here at this neckline. If we break through the neckline, then we come back to that lower support system, like I said, right here. Now I zoom into the weekly, right? Weekly. Get rid of everything. So the weekly, okay? If you remember me saying that this was the best support system to technically buy Bitcoin, do me a favor, like, comment, right? We were buying here, we were buying here, we were buying here. The first thing that pops up in my head is we're going right back to it. When you have support like that, that has hit once, twice, 3 times, bet with the trend. That's the point of technical analysis, is identifying a trend. And if someone says Bitcoin's going to go this way, and you say, well, like, dude, this is like a magnet. It just like brings it right back down to that. And then once we hit this level of the 43 to the 50, we need to analyze to see if we're getting a bullish market structure, like a double bottom, another double bottom, a higher low, and then a break above and using the 50 as support. Those are bullish market structures. As of right now, we're in the same thing. Low, higher low, higher high, okay, low. We stopped at the 70, okay? I don't like to buy things when they're extremely overbought. That's another rule, right? You need to learn these rules of overbought, right? Oversold. When's the best time to buy something? When it's oversold but forming bullish market structure. When's the best time to take profit? When it's overbought and forming bearish market structure. Bearish market structure is when the waves make its first lower high. Right? So right here, once again, it's the same thing where it's undecided yet, because here's the most recent low of 57 to 58, and we haven't broken that yet. We've also made a little bit of a higher high. So could we continue making a higher low and higher high? Of course. Now, the next thing that should pop into your head is there a trend line that we could draw with the macro waves? The macro waves are the big ones, right? So here's 1, 2, 3. That's the first thing that pops up in my mind, because if we were looking at like if you were like skipping a ball or throwing a ball, right? Here's the floor and your ball is getting lower and lower and lower. What that tells you when you're getting lower highs is momentum is coming out of the market. Now, is momentum coming out of the market on a 10-minute time frame, or is momentum coming out of the market on a weekly time frame? It's coming out on a weekly time frame. What's one of the rules that I tell you? Long-term trends predict short-term outcomes. Are lower highs with the same lows bullish or bearish? That's more bearish. What is that? That's a descending triangle. Do descending triangles usually break down? It depends. Is the longer time frame bearish or bullish? Right now, if the monthly starts to head down, and that shows us that we could break the 70 and have, I mean, from here to here, cuzzies, is 122 days, right? From here to here, cuzzies, is 60 days, right? 11%, well, I'll go to the price action, right? But I'm just showing you that it could be 60 to 120 days leading us till the end of December, November, right? Something like that. What is that? August, no, I would say August, September of bearish sentiment. It's a possibility, right? It's a possibility because I just showed you what happened here and what happened here. So now if the descending triangle breaks down on the weekly, that fuels the monthly to break the 70 and then go back to this line, okay? If we're at this line on the monthly and we're at this box on the weekly, that shows me that we potentially could have a dead cat bounce and another macro move to the upside. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is, like I told you, that descending triangle, those lower highs, okay? As of right now, we're at resistance, which is the 70, and we're at trend line resistance, which is when it touches this orange line, okay? We touched it, we came down, we touched it, we came down. What are the odds that all I did was extend it and it used it as resistance again? So this is what I mean by trusting charts over people. If we come down to the purple, I'm trusting the chart and I'm putting a little bit more into Bitcoin or opening up a long, depending on the sentiment of the longer term market. If we come back up and form another lower high like this is where I open my long. If we do something like this and stop at these resistance levels, look how I just went left. This stopped here once, stopped here twice, stopped here 3 times, stopped here 4 times. So I'm going to assume, right, this is 2-3 steps ahead. This is chess, not checkers, cuzzy. This is, if I do this and the market does that, then I need to do this, okay? As of right now, market hasn't done shit. Right? It's been coming down. So if the market does come down, and then we have the dead cat bounce, and then we go back up, well, once again, you have to be able to either take your profits off the table on the long, or if you're waiting to take profit off your Bitcoin, not financial advice, and we go back from 113 to 150, or from, let's just do it right, no assumptions, right? So now we try and figure out price action, okay? Trend lines go with trend indicator. What does that mean? That works on longer time frames. So the longest one I like to use is the monthly. Trend lines go with trend indicator. If your trend indicator, which is what? Test, what is a trend indicator? It's not an RSI. It's not a stochastic RSI. It's not your moving averages. What is it? The MACD. So if your MACD is up, right? Up, not down, up. that means your trend lines go up. If your MACD is forming a top, that means your trend lines, okay, let me show you. This, okay, this means this, okay. This means this, okay. This means this. This means this. And it's a process that goes over and over. Let me put on auto. So again, 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 again. Now, if you don't believe me, you ready? Let's double click. Okay. Get rid of this one. Make this a little bit bigger. So golden cross, trend lines go up. Trend line goes up, right? We're forming a bottom over here. We were forming a bottom over here, if you remember. We were staying flat for a long time in between 24 and 16,000, right? Death cross, where is it? Death cross coming down. Trend lines go down. See? Let's delete everything, right? Going flat, MACD coming down, RSI coming down. Trend lines go sideways, okay? MACD golden crosses goes up, trend lines go up, okay? So, trend lines, what are we doing? Look at the MACD. We're going up. So that means trend line needs to go up, okay? We're not going sideways yet, we're going up. When do we go sideways? When this breaks down, okay? When that breaks down. Hasn't happened yet, okay? We're symmetrical. When symmetrical means neutral. Ascending means bullish, descending means bearish. Because you're making a higher low, but a lower high, but a higher low, but a lower high, it's indecisive. You understand? This will eventually break up to the upside or break down to the downside. What does that mean? The measured move up is to this level. Literally, from here to here. The measured move down is from here to here. This is understanding your risk to the 50, reward to the 84. Where do I think this eventually plays out? I do think eventually we come down one more time, so we have a third touch point, right? So I think it does this, right? And then I think eventually we do something like this. First to second quarter of 2026. And then I think we do this, and we fall back down to here. Because I trust charts over people. And the orange trend line has called the tops of every single cycle, and the blue trend line has called the bottoms. And this is how I do magic and say, well, 17.5, 15.5, 13.5 is where I'd like to potentially put more money in the market. And if we're over here and if it's at like 130, 140, 150,000, then I would like to take more money out of the market and have less crypto, right? So as of right now, we're still in the symmetrical triangle trend. As of right now, we're pointing down, and as of right now, on a weekly time frame, when you zoom down, it's not the best case scenario. So once again, we need to either form the high or low right now to the 50.11 and do something like this, or we break down and we come back to these support levels of the 50 to the 43.99. I'll leave you guys with this. I don't chase green candles. I mentioned how we could be forming a top, and I'd like to be buying more XRP at $2.52 to $2.40. This W pattern is 1, 2, 3, 4. Once the move happens, you then need to allow the market to reform itself and see what it's going to do. As of right now, this does look like I don't know what it looks like, to be honest, but as of right now, it's still coming back down, and these were the most recent resistance levels, 247 to 259. So I'm going to assume that if this is a continuation pattern to the upside, that is going to be your first support system there. I was asked about algo, same scenario. Algo went from 52 down to the support of 14, came back up to resistance, came back down. This is your W pattern, literally like this. And now you're seeing resistance again at this 29 cents. I would like to see algo form another higher low to the 15 cents, showing us that we could break this 30 to 34 cents, and then your next resistance levels are going to be here. That is your major resistance, 39 to 41 cents, but you could see wicks above. So if you do see here, I like to choose 3 levels to take profit. Most traders try and teach their people to use 6 levels, because the whole point of this, right, of doing this, is to just catch the majority of the wave, bro. Right? I am a swing trader at this point in my life. I do not like to day trade. I have children. I'm a sports dad. It's just you always have to figure how much time am I sitting in front of the computer and how much money am I making per hour. So if I could just open up my computer, do a couple hours of trading, and then let that trade play out, like this trade here would have been 35 days of 45%. This trade here, beautiful, right? 49 days, 300%. The point I'm trying to make is I'm not looking to be a sniper and get in and get out here. I'm just trying to catch the breakout and then take profit like here, 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 and I'm out, right? What I said before was 6 levels most traders use. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then on the bottom, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that they catch the bottom and they catch the top. Because when I said 17, 5, 15, 5, 13, 5 during the last bear market, my 13, 5 buys didn't hit, but my 17, 5 and my 15, 5 did. So you look like a genius either way, because you're still in with 60%, right? Because it's 30, 30, 30, and I leave 10% on the side. So you're still in with 60% of your money, right? As of right now, by the way, Bitcoin loves bull flags during bull markets. So like as of right now, as we inch 15,000 was the bottom. As we inch closer to the top, 100,000, 115, 125, 135, I am taking more money out of my positions and transitioning more to cash so that I have more buying power when poo-poo hits the fan. Like literally, I am already telling my close circle I'm preparing for a bear market, and then I want to have ridiculous amounts of cash for 2027, 2028, right? Not my opinion. When was the best time to have the most amount of cash in your possession? When Bitcoin was extremely oversold, right? During a bear market, down 80 something percent, right? Went from 1100 to 200. A lot of people don't remember those days because you weren't there. Did you remember when it went from 20,000 to 3, or 14,000 to 6, or 70,000 to 15? Well, guess what? You're going to remember when it goes from 150 down to 32. That's just the way it is, right? This was major support back here. I could easily see it doing that. Just to throw it out there. I'm just curious what the good old fib says from the last bull market high to the last bear market low. Just curious. So yeah, I mean, I just threw out 150,000, but let's just say we do come down, we use the 100,000 as support, or like I said, that 97, you see a little wick below, right? Because technically it's like, is it the wicks? Is it the candles? Right? You never really know. You mess around with it. Boom. So let's just say we do come back down to that 90 to the 100,000. You see resistance at the 137, right around this level here. If, let's just say, right, 150. Let's just play devil's out. Let's just throw out some speculation. Okay. This one was what? Does anybody know? 87%. What was this one? Anybody know? 84%. What was this one? Anybody know? 78%. So now I'd probably go and figure out 87, 84, 78. If we do 73, 72, 70, right? It's obviously diminishing bear markets. It's diminishing returns as well. So if we do 150, I don't know, what, 60%, right? 60%. Now that there's, because you understand, everyone's going to be like, it's not going to fall that much, bro. There's institutions involved now, bro. Like, there's adoption now, bro. You are my exit liquidity, and you are my buying liquidity. So I'll leave you with that. So 60% brings us back down to that 59,000. If we do see a wick to the 70% level, that's never gonna happen, bro. I mean, 1, 2, 3. So that would bring us back to that 45. And if we actually did what I said, which is like that 73%, which was just a number off the top of my head, we go back to these wicks here of 33 to 35,000, which is what? Still bullish. And why is it still bullish? Why is it bullish for Bitcoin to go from 150 to 35? Because that's a higher low to the 15.5, which is a higher low to the 61.37, which is a higher low to the 3,000, which is a higher low to the 203, which is a higher low to the 83, which is a higher low to the 10, which is a higher low to the 3. So what does that show me? That shows me that in 2028, May, somewhere around here, I'm already preparing. I'm preparing for something like this. We do something like this, right? 150. We do something like this, right? Then we do something like this, right? Something like this, something like this, and then we do something like this, right? Because we would use the same metrics. We go from the high to the low. We say we're going to see resistance at 200 to 220,000. This is nothing crazy. This would just be a measly 600-700% from the top to the bottom, right? Even if it's not here and it goes over here, it's still somewhat the same thing, right? Higher low, and the goal is a higher high. When does poo-poo hit the fan on Bitcoin? When the next cycle makes the same high, meaning a 4-year cycle happens and we don't make a higher high. But as of right now, we are still in a higher low, higher high, macro bull market. It's just that simple. We've never made a lower low. So technically, Bitcoin has been bullish since 2011. That's the video. Love you guys. Appreciate the support. What am I looking for? Back to the 2-day and the 3-day, I'd like to see bullish sentiment. So bullish sentiment is at least the 2-day staying above the 50 line, and at least the 2-day staying above the 0 line on the MACD, and at least the 2-day chart stochastic indicator being above the 50. If all three of those things align, then we're forming a higher low to the 100,000, and this is just another continuation bull flag potential pattern to the upside. What do I mean by that? Well, Bitcoin made a bull flag, right, and then broke to the upside, and then like Bitcoin made a bull flag, and then like broke to the upside, and then Bitcoin made like a big bull flag, right, and then it broke to the upside, and then Bitcoin made like this kind of like a bull flag, right, but broke to the upside, and then over here Bitcoin made this bull flag. They call it a bull flag, so it made this bull flag and then just like broke to the upside, and then over here right before the bull flag, Bitcoin made a bull flag and then broke to the upside, and then before these bull flags, Bitcoin made a bull flag, right, and then broke to the upside, and then before that one, it didn't make a bull flag. made a symmetrical triangle, broke down, broke to the upside. But my point is, it loves to make these bull flags during bull markets. So the first thing we need to see is this going to make another bull flag situation, right? And are we going to break to the upside? And if we do, you would take from here to here, you would take from here to here. It would bring us to about 130, maybe 132,000. That's the video. Love you guys. Appreciate the support. Enjoy the day.